Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Fluidity Podcast. My name is Hannah, your host, and this is episode number 4. I wanted to dedicate this episode to my 90 days of sobriety. That was on Sunday, I hit my 90 days. And so I decided the way I wanted to celebrate was to dedicate this episode to what I've learned in the 90 days, how I feel my life's changed, just really the realizations I've had in the short time that I chose to go sober. Now, I committed to 1 year of sobriety. My hope is to make that a lifelong journey to quit alcohol for the rest of my life, but putting forever on something felt very scary. So, I just said, that's my intention, but why not just put a year on it so it feels a little bit less big? And this podcast is not to shame anyone that drinks. It's not to tell you that you should quit drinking. It's none of that. This is just me talking about my experiences and really my relationship with alcohol and how much I was distracting myself. We go through our days, our life, not really thinking that we're distracting ourselves, but we are, or at least that was my experience. I also wanted to say I was lucky enough to be able to quit on my own. Some situations are not like that. So if you do feel that this really triggers you and that you feel you can't quit alone, there are many places to go to get help. Not everyone can do it alone. I know that. And I'm just really grateful that I was able to, and I caught it early enough to where I could quit. So without further ado, let's get into the podcast. So you guys know the theme now. I always start the podcast with a quote. Today's quote, actually, I have two because I couldn't help myself. I am reading When Things Fall Apart by Pema Trojan, and it's amazing. If you need a book recommendation, this is it. I started reading this a couple of days, like last week, and I started reading it right after I decided to make this podcast about my 90 days sober, and funny enough, fit very well into this podcast, and it was perfect timing, and that is not a coincidence. So the first quote that really struck me in the book was, if we're willing to give up hope that insecurity and pain can be exterminated, then we have the courage to relax with the groundlessness of our situation. Now, in this chapter that quote is in, she talks about how alcohol, drugs, really anything that distract us from our pain and insecurities, we really use those as babysitters to escape and to not feel that deep-rooted pain and insecurity. And the quote is really saying, what's wrong with feeling it? We get so scared of feeling these things. They are our biggest teachers. And the more we push it away, the more it screams at us and the harder it gets to drown it out. And I think we're told that we're supposed to always be happy and life's always supposed to be perfect. And if it's not, there's something wrong. And in this book, she really helps you realize that that's life, and to really enjoy all parts of it, the joy and the distress, and to really meet those deep parts of your soul. And the more you look at those deep parts, the easier it gets, the more peace you feel with it. And that's how we get out of suffering, is really making friends with the pain, the insecurities. Not to say that we're trying to make them go away, because honestly, I don't think they ever do go away, but we get so good at having compassion for it and sitting with it instead of pushing it away and using things like drugs, alcohol to make us not feel, because all those end up doing is making us feel even worse, and then it just becomes a cycle. The other quote from the book, or from this chapter, that really stuck with me was, the real thing we renounce is the tenacious hope that we could be saved from being who we are. Oh, that really struck home for me. Feeling that we want to escape who we are, I feel was really why I drank, was to not be me, to be somebody else. And what I've realized in these 90 days, even a little bit before that when I slowed my drinking, was I was trying to quiet who I was to be someone I thought I was supposed to be. So, with that being said, love the quotes, love the book. Now, before I talk about some of the things I've realized in these 90 days, cutting out alcohol, weed, I do want to give you guys a backstory on my drinking, some drug use, and, how I got to deciding to give up alcohol and really the decisions behind that. And yeah, so we're going to go all the way back to the beginning when I was about 16, I'd say, 15, 16. I was about 15 or 16. I already told you guys that. Hopefully you listen to my other episodes. If not, go listen to them. I started drinking because I wanted to fit in. That was right around 16. Everyone was doing it. It was high school. It was a cool thing to do. And then I started to realize that it took a lot of the pressure off. It took a lot of those little voices in my head that I didn't like, or those feelings of insecurity or the feelings of loneliness, that it really shut that out. And it was like, wow, I cannot have this voice in my head that tells me all the things I'm doing wrong. I'm not comparing myself as much. And the anxiety is way less when I drink, or so I thought it was. I started to realize that, again, it shut off a lot of my emotions. Honestly, it was me numbing myself, distracting myself, and it made being in the present moment easier because I didn't have to deal with all the insecurities and all the things I was scared of. It shut all that out. But it wasn't curing it. It was just shoving it deep down and compacting everything, all the new stuff. I was never dealing with anything. I remember in school, people were like, you have no emotions. That's so awesome. You never get upset. You never get mad. You are always, in a good mood. I always wanted everyone to be my friend. I never showed emotion, and getting praised for not having emotion, hearing my friends talk about other people and how she's crazy, she's annoying, she's all these things, and realizing, emotions, people don't like emotions. People like the fun girl who never talks about her problems or never has problems. And so right off the bat, drinking was a way for me to not feel emotions. And I thought I had none because my subconscious was so good at pushing down the emotions, making me think that I didn't have them. But really, they were just in the background. And I was just doing everything physically possible to drown them out. And I got really good at it. Moving on, I was prescribed Adderall at a very young age, and from like elementary school. I hated it. I remember I felt like a zombie, and I then got to middle school and got to an age where I knew what I was taking, and I remember saying, I don't like the way I feel. I didn't sleep. I didn't eat. I felt like I didn't know what a crackhead was at the time, but looking back on it, that's how I felt. And then I got to high school. I tried taking it again because that's when Adderall started to come back up. I remember my grades weren't the best and my attention wasn't the best again. Not sure who asked me or put the idea in my head, but maybe it was me. I was like, maybe I should try take my Adderall again because it's hard for me to focus. So I started taking it towards the end of high school, started to really like it. I took it to college. I became very addicted to Adderall, very addicted. I would take it multiple times a day. I felt that it was my whole personality, that it made me feel like Superwoman and that I was the coolest person out there. But it also made me want to drink 10 times more because my anxiety was so high when I was taking the Adderall. When I'd come down, I'd have to drink or else I would be in so much agony and I would have so much anxiety and all the emotions would just come flooding through. So I drank to drown that out. And then I smoked cigarettes too in college. I then realized I got to a breaking point with Adderall and drinking at 21 or 22. And I remember I was like, there's no way I can fucking do this anymore. There's no way. My whole life revolved around Adderall all day long. All I was looking forward to was drinking at the end of the day. And I would drink like 3 bottles of wine. And I then stay up till 2 a.m. smoking cigarettes. And I felt empty. I felt alone. I felt like I had no purpose. I felt, looking back on those feelings, it just makes me sad, honestly. All I was doing was trying to run away from the feelings, but in the end, it made all the feelings that much harder to feel. So I decided to stop taking Adderall. So I stopped taking Adderall. I decided not to drink on weekdays, and I thought I could just drink on weekends and it'd be fine, and I could do that. And so then I fast forward to about 2 years after that. I was in a better place. I wasn't drinking every night. I wasn't hungover every day, but I was still, when I drank on the weekend or when I had like more than 2 days off at a time, I would go on a bender and I would drink, and I would end up taking Adderall on the weekends just to drink. And then I got into my fitness career, and that really saved me because I loved fitness more than I loved getting fucked up. And it really was just me switching my distraction to fitness and working out. Took it away from the alcohol and the Adderall. Once I got to 24, I had no problem with Adderall. I really cured myself of that. It was then more the drinking. And again, I would go out on the weekends. I would get completely blackout. And I truly thought the only way to have fun, the only way to let go, was to get so drunk I didn't remember anything. I realized that I only liked myself when I was drinking. I only truly felt calm and able to be with myself when I was drinking. And that became a problem because I was starting on my spiritual path. And honestly, for the first 2 years of getting into spirituality and self-development, I knew that this was hidden back in my closet, something that I didn't want to look at because I knew I had to give up drinking. I knew it because it was something that I was holding on to and I was attaching to. And I knew that it was honestly taken away from all my values. But I was so attached to this as my identity that I thought I could never have fun again if I didn't drink. And I thought that people wouldn't like me. Consciously, I know that's not true, or I hoped it wasn't. But deep down, I really believe that, and it's still something I'm working on. But yeah, having something holding that over my head, or feeling like I wouldn't go out because I didn't want to drink, and I thought if I went out, I had to drink. I thought that if I went around people that were drinking, I had to drink, and if I didn't, I would look boring and I wouldn't have fun and all these other things. Then about a year ago, I felt like I was in a constant battle with wanting to chase what I was interested in, which is spirituality, self-development, and really getting to know who I was and really facing what I want to be in life. And I really valued my health, my wellness, my relationship to myself, to other people, to nature. And drinking really took away from all of that. It made it very hard to stick to my values. I really wanted to love myself and go on this journey of self-development. And I felt that there was that big monster in the closet that I wasn't looking at. So I was talking to my therapist, and there was this wedding coming up. It was my best friend's wedding. And at this point, I was really not drinking because it took away from all my values. But it was still like that. It was still deep down brewing of every time I went out, I would get anxiety because I was like, am I going to drink? Am I not going to drink? It was like that back and forth because I knew deep down I didn't want to. But on some level, it just felt like something I was holding on to. Maybe I can be spiritual and, not have to look at this monster of why I drink or give it up. I was like feeling like I was giving something up. And my therapist just asked me, what would happen if you didn't drink? Like, what do you think you're missing out on? And that question right there, you're right. And that is when I realized all the reasons why I drink, and they are not valid and they don't add to my life. And so then I decided, it wasn't actually on that day. It was a couple of days later. I just decided I wasn't going to drink at the wedding. And then once I decided that, I'm like, well, if I can do that, then why would I ever drink again? And so sometimes I get excited and I just commit. I'm like, my whole life I'm never drinking again. But then I was like, Hannah, if you're really serious about this, let's just go baby steps at a time. Let's do a year and go from there. Also, another side of this is I have a family member who has had problems with drinking. It's been years now, and it's really been eating at me. I would get so angry and I would get so resentful, and I was like, why am I feeling like this? I feel so attached to this, and it was just always, I was just very angry about the situation. And then that made me realize that I was so angry is because I was so angry at this person because I wasn't looking at myself and the parts of me that also had problems with drinking, and I wanted her to quit so bad, but really I can't change other people. That's not my job. The only person I can change and look at and improve is myself. That was the moment I realized that I have to change, and I really wanted to do it for myself, but I was getting angry at her because I was denying the fact that I had a problem. And here we are, day 90. And honestly, it feels way longer than 90 days, and in a good way, because I have learned so much in this short amount of time about myself, about the world, about everything, that I cannot wait for the next year to come and how much I'm going to gain from this. And, in the beginning, I was scared that I was giving something away or that I was losing something, but I'm gaining so much that I didn't know I would. And if you would have asked me a couple years ago that I would quit drinking, I wouldn't believe you. Like, that was never on my radar. I remember I would judge people who didn't drink. I'm like, do they not like having fun? Like, they're uptight. And I think those voices and that judgment was me just fearful of, that was just me. That was just fear talking because I knew I wanted to quit drinking, but I was scared of what people would think of me if I quit. Or again, I thought that I would be taking something away from my life and I would be missing out on something in life when really you gain so much more. At least that's been my experience in the 90 days. So without further ado, here are some of the things that I noticed in the 90 days, in these first 90 days going sober. And this is sober from alcohol, from weed, from literally everything. I do drink tea, so I got some caffeine in there. But I do want to touch on something. Now, I decided no alcohol. I haven't decided on weed yet. These 90 days, though, I haven't smoked nothing at all. But weed is in a gray area for me. I decided really to cut it out, though, at least right now till I figure out why I'm distracting myself with these things, because I didn't want to substitute weed for alcohol. That's just not going to do any good. So I believe I will continue not smoking. It is hard in this day and age, but I am learning so much that I really feel called to it. And again, this is not me saying to stop smoking or to do anything, just my experience. So yeah. And also when I think about, me hesitating with giving up smoking, when I think, why would I smoke? And the only thing I could think of is to have fun, to feel less of my emotions, to feel less anxious or scared or feel fearful. But I'm just realizing now that's the same thing that I did with alcohol. So I may have just realized that I am not going to smoke either. So that just happened now, friends. Okay. So the things I've noticed in these first 90 days of sobriety, first on my list is I put confidence and intuition. Now let me explain. The amount of confidence I have gained in these 90 days are more than I ever had with drinking. I have more confidence to go after what I want. To this podcast, no way you would have caught me talking to a camera and putting it online about the things I'm talking about. Never. I just have more confidence in me, and not that those insecurities and pains really went away. It made me more confident to feel them and in a space where I can have more compassion for myself, and just my body feels better. So I'm able to take on those scary emotions and move past them. So yeah, confidence with feeling my emotions and getting quiet enough to hearing them is a big one. And really made me realize how powerful we are and how much control we have of our life when we stop distracting ourselves from the things we think we're scared of, and stop distracting ourselves from who we are. We have so much power in our life. I had no idea. I had no idea how much confidence I would gain from not drinking. Now, there's still a lot of work to do, my friends. I haven't even got to the part where I date sober, because I've never dated sober. I will make a podcast on that because I've yet to do it, because I've been really focusing on me. Sorry, this is a side note. But yeah, I do want to make a podcast on that because the one thing I'm lacking some confidence in is the dating realm. But we will get to that. And the second part of this was how intuitive we are. I always felt very intuitive, but almost like there was something blocking it. Can you guess what it was? It was the lying to myself, the not taking the time to listen, because that's what drinking does. It shuts off your connection to you. And when you do that, you can't hear your intuition. So these 90 days, I really noticed how in tune I am with the environment, to source, to my higher self, and like just little things I've noticed. And it grows more and more every day the more I listen to it, because it's so subtle. It's so subtle that we tone it out. And the more that you listen, the stronger it gets. When I was drinking, I was so up and down with everything. I didn't know. I couldn't hear it. Maybe I did. It was there, but I couldn't tell the difference between my intuition and my thoughts. I have been able to get way more connected to my meditation practice. When I was drinking, I would meditate. I thought I was, but I really was not. I wasn't taking advantage of the time I had for myself. I was always like doing it to check a box. I wasn't doing it to actually listen, because I didn't want to hear, because I knew what it was going to say, which was stop distracting yourself, stop filling the void. I knew that I had to listen and had to feel these emotions, but I didn't want to. That's why I drank, to numb them. So I was really not being honest with myself. And once I quit that out and became honest with where I was at, I was able to hear more of those little nudges. It's really amazing when you let go and listen to our intuition and not the small self-ego who doesn't know what's the best thing for us. So yeah, gained confidence and I gained more connection to my intuition. I'm really excited and I just feel like a deeper connection to me that I've never felt before. Next is the next thing I noticed is how much I don't know about myself. I was turning my back on my values, myself. I was doing things that I, if I'm honest, really didn't care about. It was to be liked and to fit in. And when I stopped drinking, I realized how much I have no idea who I am. Again, if you listen to my other podcasts, you'll know I really didn't know the hobbies I liked without drinking. I didn't know what I really enjoyed. I didn't know which way was up. I was so lost because I was distracting myself for so long. And another reason why it took me so long to quit drinking was because I was scared of not having the one thing I knew about myself, which was I had fun when I went out drinking and people liked me when I was drinking. And that was how you had fun. Like letting go of that, I was like, who am I? What do I like to do? I have no idea what I like to do because everything I do that's so-called fun or my hobbies involve drinking. And unless it was the gym. But so yeah, first it was a little unsettling, feeling like you don't know yourself and that you were almost living a lie. And then I let it set in. I then realized what amazing opportunity this is to get to know myself and learn about myself. And how amazing is that to have the time and have the space to really understand yourself. And that is what I've been wanting to do ever since I started my spiritual practice, was to understand myself. And the one thing that was holding me back was drinking. I noticed as well that I used drinking to drown out my authenticity. I was doing a lot of things that I wouldn't do sober. And what kind of life is that to live? Talking to people that I usually wouldn't talk to, or saying things I wouldn't say sober. And I am just so grateful that I have this opportunity now to really be honest with myself and find who I am and not sacrifice my authenticity for a quick dopamine rush and feeling like I have no problems for a night. And yes, it's scary to feel like you don't know who you are, but I'd rather be on the journey to find myself than be on a journey to unknow myself and get myself even more confused of who I am, what I like, and what my true values are, and live by those. The next thing on my list is I realize what relationships, people, places add to my life and which do not. And the ones that do not, how fast they fall away. Realizing this kind of ties into the last point, the people that add to your life and the people that take away from it. And also what people actually truly are your friend. When you quit drinking, you stop going out, a lot of the friends that are not truly your friend will fall away. And I realized that a lot of my friends were friends because I was drinking. The only time we hung out or did anything was to go get drinks, was to do something that involved drinking. Or so it was never deep connections that I had with people because that's all it revolved around. It was just another person to go get drinks with. And that was a very sad realization because I felt very alone. And I still do sometimes. But I learned to embrace that. And, at the end of the day, all we have is ourselves. If I can build my relationship with myself first strong, I know that those other connections are going to come as well. Realizing the people that add to your energy and take away from it. When you're drinking, you don't notice that because you're unconnected to everything. At least I was. And, now being sober, when I'm, talking to someone, you can really feel if someone's for you, if someone really wants to be there and is giving you the same energy you're giving back, and the people that are, not really there for you. And our time is precious, and I don't want to spend time with someone who doesn't want to spend time with me or truly doesn't value my time or our connection. And yes, it's a lonely road at first, but I believe that letting the relationships that didn't align with you or didn't bring your energy up, letting those fall away so that the real connections and the real friendships can come in. And that freaking takes time. This also touches in my romantic relationships. I realized that all my boyfriends in the past, I dated or met or started dating them when I was drinking. Most of our relationship was me drinking. Not a lot of it was me sober. And that there are some other issues related to that. But I realized I never had a deep connection with a boyfriend relationship, really, because they didn't know me. I didn't know me. So to come on grips with that was hard, but once I have realized it, I know that there's a lot of work to do in that area, but I'm excited to have more authentic relationships and ones that are going to lift me up and not take from me. Next on the list was less caring about what people think of me and setting boundaries. So I realized I care less about what people think of me now without drinking. When I was drinking, that's all I thought about. That's all I cared about was what people thought of me. And it's funny, you would think that drinking would make that go away, but I lied to myself and said that it did. But looking back with a clear mind, it didn't. It made it 10 times worse. That's all I thought about. And now not drinking, I really do care less about what people think of me. I care more about what I think of me. And that's a work in progress. But that goes back to the confidence. I have more confidence and I don't have to make everyone like me. And I'm able to just feel more connected to me. And I think that's why I don't care as much about what people think of me. And the other part of this was setting boundaries. So when I was drinking a lot, I would hang out with everyone and anybody, even if I felt that they made me feel bad or that they weren't someone I wanted to spend time with. They treated me a certain way and I just let it go right under the rug. I just pretend like I didn't care. And I was really going against me and how precious my energy is. And now setting boundaries with people that don't respect me or my time or our relationship, setting those boundaries have become easier. And I've been so much happier not feeling like I have to please everybody, not feeling like I have to do things because if I don't, that person will judge me or think I'm a bitch or I'm mean. I cannot control other people's emotions. I know I'm doing it out of the love for me and them. I'm not doing it out of hate. And if they think it's coming from that, then that's on them. And I can't take on trying to control or please everybody. And I think that was drinking. I was trying to always please everyone and not myself. The next one is learn what I actually enjoy doing. So I have really discovered what I actually enjoy doing, and they are the little things that bring me joy. Before, I could never tell you anything I like to do that didn't involve drinking. Now I have multiple things, and they might not be huge things, and they may not be cool to anybody else, but that's not the point. They're what I like. For example, I love going to the farmer's market. I love fresh fruits and vegetables. I love cooking. I love being in the kitchen. I love reading. I love tea. I love new coffee shops. I love exploring new cities. I love talking to new people. I love traveling. And I love to learn more about myself and more about the universe and why we're here, more about energy and all these things that I thought were woo. I really do enjoy that. And just pushing myself out of my comfort zone, like starting this podcast. Last thing I will say is I was really taking a back seat to my life. I was too scared to let things go, to let the new things in. And that thing that I had to let go was drugs and alcohol, because it was holding me back from everything that I wanted to be. And yeah, just these 90 days have showed me how much I'm capable of. And I'm so excited to learn more about myself and keep pushing myself and just honestly heal and live life more fully, embrace all those emotions, all the emotions of the rainbow. So I just want to end on one thing. I am not saying that drinking's bad. Drinking is bad for me. And in my experience, it took away from my life and it didn't add anything to it. And I have too much awareness now to sit there and say that it didn't, and to sit there and continue to do something when I knew it was literally only taking things away from me. And that might not be your story. All power to you. It's not me telling you that you're doing something wrong. You know you best. But I will invite you, if you do feel like any of this resonated with you and made you a little bit uncomfortable, to ask yourself why. And I love you all, and I appreciate you all listening to this episode number 4, baby. If you enjoyed this, please like, subscribe. I will put everything you need to know in the show notes. I will link the book I was talking about, and I will see y'all episode 5 next week. I believe Tuesday is going to be the day that I release my episodes. I like Tuesday, so today's actually a Tuesday. Anyway, peace out, friends.